there was another person that got, as graphic as it sounds, blood in their semen. I would actually just stop right there if that was me. That'd be horrified if I saw that. But I guess the question is,
Cancel my order, refund my money. Yeah. And the scary thing about that to me is, like, say what you will about HairDAO and all those people. I don't know much about it, but you've mentioned names at least, right? These are people with careers. They're public facing. They can't run if something goes awry. If something goes awry and Jumpman's involved, he can just bail. Imagine like somebody died because they took they applied the ketoconazole that Jenny shipped, which, by the way, Jumpman quickly wrote in the chat after it had been received by a few people.
Parents, we wish to advise that because of possible harmful elements, certain portions of the following program may not be suitable for young children.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Yeah, so basically the context, I'm trying to understand who this like Jumpman guy is, who this HairDAO guy is, because the beginning of the year, they came to me because they wanted me to promote their DAO shit, whatever that was all about. I said no. They got pissed off at me. And next thing you know, I'm getting like random calls. My family members are getting called. Yeah, in the conversation I was having with Jumpman, he was just being very like shady. Like he's, if you have hair loss, you're supposed to support HairDAO. Oh, you don't have any hair loss? I just thought that was really strange. Like it's pretty weird. You're coming to me for help. You're saying I know nothing about the DAO and why you guys got banned from various subreddits. And I just asked him simple questions. Okay, so then how are you carrying out your little clinical trials? Like how are people getting their chemicals? How are they being tested? And in asking very simple questions that to me, I'm surprised nobody on his side even considered those type of questions. I thought that was baffling, right? Just very simple. Yeah. Are you testing it? How are you testing it? Even who's testing it? That was a big question of mine. Yeah. And it's yeah, and it's like just this blind, like, everyone's just following him blindly. And the fact that when I read his papers and I took him to task, he had nothing, no citations in any of his papers. And I'm just like, okay, so it's crazy how this guy is telling you to take an odd set of 23, chemicals, 10 of which are chemotherapy drugs. And he has no citations whatsoever. You question him on it. I even got some PhD researchers from a university to have a discussion with him. And his response was, oh, that sounds stupid. I don't talk to PhDs, they're dumb. It's like, okay, wow. So, the hubris on this guy after you're targeting me because you want, so what I do for context, right? I have hair loss, right? Like, I've been treating it. It's going pretty well. But in doing that, I educate myself and I make video essays about it. It doesn't seem too controversial, but because they want people to promote their DAO, and because I post stuff on the Trestless subreddit, and occasionally I talk to the moderators in just the comment section, which anyone can do, they thought that I had some sort of like elaborate thing. I was working with the mods, and because the mods banned them for spamming, group buy links, which you're not supposed to do on Reddit, they thought I could unban them. And I said, that's not my responsibility. I have no interest in it. I don't even know what you guys are. But in their antagonism of me, now I'm trying to understand like who they are, and who Jumpman is, because suspiciously, I mean, I'm sure he's gone. So it's like, where is he now?
He's quote unquote gone. Yeah.
It's like, so that's what I was trying to get with this sort of interview. Just your experience with the group buy. I'm not saying with HairDAO directly, because you probably don't even know much about the founders themselves, but I just want the context of the group buy and just what the hell is going on. Because I have some screenshots from the Telegram, but they're just from what other people sent me. And then the whole thing about HairDAO paying for the blood work, and then they're telling me they're not paying for the blood work, but then they clearly are. And then you read their articles online, and then in their articles it says, yes, we're doing a TM clinical trial based on Jumpman's research, and all their their articles, their little newspapers or whatever. Jumpman's mentioned over 200 times. He has the most so-called hair tokens. They give him most of the credit for everything they do. And it got to the point where Claire Higgins of the Imperial College of London, I had people message her, and she's so defensive. Like, I don't know who Jumpman is. What are you talking about? Looks like he left the server. I don't know anything about Discord. I joined the Discord. It's like, wow. So, like, what's going on here? You're saying he's designing clinical trials, and now apparently, like, researchers are getting the data from these dudes. So it's like just a bunch of bullshit. I just want to see, like, you know, where Jumpman is and the group buy is and how that materialized and his promises that he made, if he made any.
Yeah, I've been traveling, so I may not be the most cogent and eloquent right now, but I'm happy to share everything I can. I have nothing to hold back. I have obviously no affiliation with or loyalty to Jumpman. I'm every man for himself, and you know, I just wanted a solution, and I fell into like this just viper pit of paranoid cultists. So yeah, I probably am one of the few like objective people in there. And if I'm not one of the few, then I'm one of the few willing to at least, you know, speak to somebody about it.
Okay, that's cool. So I guess the first question would be, how did you get introduced to this sort of, I guess, Telegram group chat that Jumpman was running? And if you could also explain, what is a group buy?
Yeah. Well, I found the group he was running because I was originally looking for chemicals totally unrelated to hair loss. Thankfully, you know, knock on wood, I don't suffer from that problem. But I have been active in the research chemical space for a number of years, even back when things like paracetam were just becoming mass market. So, you know, not a newbie on the scene. I've dealt with a lot of guys like Jumpman, dealt with a lot of group buys. I was looking for rapamycin and varinistat. Rapamycin especially is it's expensive to get just raw powder. So and so I was just looking for this stuff for, you know, general well-being, longevity, that kind of stuff, to give you an idea of, you know, what my interests and motivations were. So I found a link that he had posted on this website, rapamycin.news, which is pretty reputable and cautious place. You know, it's not fringe. It's very level-headed folks, but they have some good discussions on rapamycin, and they're pretty progressive despite being, you know, judicious about what they do and what they take and ingest and whatnot. So I saw him posting there, and I thought, oh, okay, you know, if he knows about this place, then maybe he can deliver, you know, some reliable stuff. So I it took me to his Telegram, and yeah, they were organizing a group buy. He was clearly the ringleader. Everything flowed through him. Everything from, like, when you first got in, there was pricing lists and these just elaborate elaborate PDFs with regimens he had concocted, like, you know, if you want to tackle hair loss this way, if you want just the omnibus, just, you know, kitchen sink approach, buy these chemicals, buy these 30 chemicals, dosing information, his theories, and then just, you know, discussions about everything, and facilitating the actual group buy. So the group buys themselves, as you might know, in this scene, and even in the retail scene in the US, everything's coming from China. It's all synthed in China. So that's fine. And, you know, there are certainly reputable vendors and manufacturers. But even if there aren't, and even if there are, you need to get stuff tested that you buy. So it's perfectly, you're perfectly able to buy good, pure chemicals from China, but you don't know a vendor from Adam if you're not getting it tested. So his group buy was, and as you know, more on that later. So his group buy was ordering everything from some company called Jenny Chem, like a woman's name, Jenny, Forrest Gump. And the main contact there was named Olivia, quote unquote Olivia. That's how these things go. These labs or manufacturers, sometimes they're resellers. They all operate usually through WhatsApp or WeChat or something like that. So Olivia had a WhatsApp, and you were supposed to pick out everything from Jumpman's list and then send her a message on WhatsApp saying, hey, Jumpman sent me, and I want to be part of a coordinated buy. And so what the lab would then do, or the reseller would then do, is give you bulk pricing based on how many people ended up, submitting orders over WhatsApp. So that's, without saying anything about the results of the buy and the outcome, that's typically how it works.
Okay, yeah, thank you for explaining. So I guess the next question I have would involve maybe the concerns about the purities and the testing when it came to these particular chemicals that Jumpman was commissioning through Jenny's Chems, right? Were there any sort of concerns when it came to the impurities? From my understanding, from some of the screenshots that I've seen, you had one person who was using ketoconazole. Like, you can get ketoconazole from, the convenience store over the counter. Yeah. But this particular person had a side effect where they got a rash from some sort of impurity that was in the ketoconazole powder. There was another person that got, as graphic as it sounds, blood in their semen. I would actually just stop right there if that was me. That'd be horrified if I saw that. But I guess the question is...
Cancel my order, refund my money, yeah.
I mean, yeah, that definitely. But I guess the question is, was there a large contingency of people who were concerned about the purity of their chemicals, right? Did they even get it tested by independent labs, or did they demand of Jumpman to get those chemicals tested? Because if people are having these side effects, not just to the active ingredients, who knows? But if they're having side effects to impurities, or possibly intoxicating themselves with like horrible metabolites or things like lead. I guess what I'm trying to say is, did Jumpman even try to get these things tested?
No. And it was scary on two levels. One, because it's just SOP, right? It's just standard procedure. If you're ordering things like that, you don't know what the hell they shipped you, right? It could be amphetamines, it could be table salt, who the hell knows, right? So there's that. The second level to it was that, I think this was the first part of your question, like, was there a large amount of people concerned about this? There wasn't. There was a significant and sizable and vocal minority, a substantial minority. Kind of the alarming thing to me, just on a observational level, was that most people did not care. They weren't even asking questions. It was just like blind obedience, blind faith in this guy.
It's like a cult.
Yeah, it's like a cult. It was totally like a cult. And that's probably beyond the intricate regimens this guy put together. And he clearly put a lot of work and thought into it. Not saying they were correct, but a lot of effort went into what he did. It was a good sales pitch on the face of it, but beyond that, there was no regard for like common sense, like a logic. Like, yeah, he sounds slick, he sounds knowledgeable. Regardless of that, he could be you know, Jonas Salk. He could be Anthony Fauci. It doesn't matter who it is. You go get it tested, right? You go. That's step 2. Step 1 is buy the stuff. Step 2 is send it to Genoshic or MZ Biolabs or somebody, and get it tested. I mean, it's simple, and it's the crazy thing is that, and this goes to what you said about it being a cult, is anyone who brought that up was immediately dismissed or insulted, or sort of this jingoistic attitude, like your patriotism was being questioned if you even brought up testing.
Yeah.
And eventually some of us in the group put together like a little channel within the Telegram, which he let us do, saying, okay, he's clearly not responsive to concerns about testing, and even calling it concerns like makes it sound like it's an option. It's really not optional, but some of us tried to coordinate testing for things when they finally came in. It didn't really get off the ground because for a couple of reasons. Like you said, reports started coming back about some of the chemicals that they were probably not safe, or they were contaminated. Another reason was he did a bit of a bait and switch where he said, okay, I'll pay for it. And I don't know why you guys are so flustered. I told you I'd pay for it. But you got to send it to the lab I choose. And of course, he never paid for anything. He never, there was no follow-up. There was no nothing. And by the time we might have had something to test, he, of course, disappeared. So, yeah, look, I mean, long short of it, there was a guy who was, if not intentionally, effectively taking advantage of the desperation and blind faith and wild optimism of a bunch of dudes losing their hair who were probably depressed and desperate about it, and saw in Jumpman, a real authority who was confident as hell. I mean, I can't overstate like how confident he was, and I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about other aspects of that, but like just from one look at some of the stuff he was saying, I mean, the red flags were just there immediately. Like I said, he was dismissive if anyone questioned him or scrutinized, his regimens or the group by, and the claims were just, it just reminded me of like, I don't know how old he is, and I've been 21 myself, but he sounded like a 21-year-old guy who just thought, he could do. He was like a Nobel laureate in chemistry. He just figured everything out, and anyone who didn't believe him was an idiot, and he was going to fix everything. Meanwhile, you take a look at like one small claim of his. He said topical melatonin will reverse gray hair. And, I'm 33 now. I can tell you it doesn't. I've been using it a long time. It doesn't. I wish it did. But, there's just this cavalierness. I mean, and I'm sure having people who just, kiss your feet all day doesn't help. But I don't know. He was just, and the reason I say like he must have been young, because there was just no care for people's health or consequences of the risks that he was telling people to take. I would have trusted him a lot more if he had admitted that, hey, this is not tested. This is totally theoretical. You could have this, X, Y, and Z happen if you take this, but there was really none of that. And when there was, it was something like, oh, by the way, if you take, I'm forgetting, the chemicals are like an alphabet soup. I think one was like, it was like JXL16. Oh, if you take JXL16 without without TDM56, your hair cells may kill themselves. And it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, thanks for letting us know. So, and as I'm, all the things are coming back to me, just just the outrageous stuff. I mean, some days he would pop up in the Telegram and he'd say, yeah, I don't really know like who these guys are. And I don't really know who's manufacturing this, but I found some group that's having some nootropic drug that they just came up with. They're having it synthesized, and here's a link. You can go buy it if you want to.
That's
I'm
so
going to. I
asinine.
recommend it.
Jesus,
Yeah.
I just gotta jump in and just say that's like
Yeah.
so ridiculous. Because when I don't does he get some sort of financial cut from this? It seems like there's just no way that this guy isn't getting some sort of cut by orchestrating all these group buys. Especially when he's just saying, "Oh, just go to this random link over here and do this thing. Go to this one Alibaba page over here. Buy through Alibaba over here for this % off on this particular." It just seems so strange to me that he would just do it out of the, I guess, the kindness of his heart. And what seems strange to me, at least when it came to that one compound, TM 5614 or whatever number said it was that urgency from what I saw in the screenshots for people to purchase it. For the group buy, that urgency, because I mean, I know you don't know probably much about HairDAO, but I'm certain in that screenshot they were emphasizing that HairDAO wants to see the blood work. They'll pay for everyone's blood work if you are to buy TM 5614, right? They'll pay for your blood work, and it was that sort of weird. It was like he was pushing it, right? And it makes me question, what was this group buy even for, right? It seems to him and many of the people of the DAO that it was just some sort of clinical trial. Because when you look at the Discord server, they're very much in lockstep with Jumpman, and I mean, they call him in the HairDAO articles our Lord and Savior, God Jumpman, not being hyperbolic, it goes to the point of it being some sort of a cult, but. Like you said, it just shows a real blatant disregard because, one, you don't know if he's making a cut. Two, you have this DAO organization that's saying they're going to pay for the blood work of people who, there may be people in there who aren't even there for hair loss, right? But just to expedite this group buying process, if you buy TM5614, we'll pay for all your blood work. So it's like, what's even going on there? That in of itself to me makes his motives seem very, shady.
Yeah. A lot of good questions there. Ones that I've had myself the entire time. The first one about his motivations just stands to reason, right? That this guy is putting in so much work. And he was doing a lot of legwork to coordinate all kinds of orders and take questions and apparently work really closely with the manufacturer to get some of the custom drugs synthesized on schedule. That combined with like you said, the urgency, the brazenness of just suggesting random chemicals people buy like now, it would just be logical that he was getting a cut. I don't see, I don't think it would have been worth his time. Like the savings from getting a bunch of other people to buy in bulk, I don't think it would have been worth his time. So yeah, I mean, we'll never find out at this rate. But the HairDAO, the HairDAO thing is weird because, and I didn't follow it too much in the group, but what I did see didn't really make sense, because, like we just talked about, he clearly doesn't care about like safety, right? And yet he's like shilling for HairDAO, or not shilling, but promoting HairDAO, saying HairDAO will take care of your blood work, and that really, it's a weird overlap because you're crossing a lot of grades in the spectrum from above board to black market kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You're mixing those pools, and I don't think that works out too well, because you've got some guy who's conducting essentially an underground group buy of of untested chemicals from some godforsaken boiler room in China, probably. Meanwhile, like, he's saying, well, this sort of gray area DAO, right? Because crypto is, whether you believe it or not, is kind of a gray area. This DAO will back you up. And then on the other side of the DAO are like these institutions, right? Like Imperial College London and everything. And I think I don't I don't know if he had like the right authorization from them to start promising that blood work would be taken care of or whatever. But clearly, like, that commingling was not kosher, and somebody got spooked somewhere, and it's probably contributed to him fleeing. But yeah, TM 5614. It was a Pi 1 inhibitor. Even that, I thought it was strange because the company that is moving ahead with a similar inhibitor, 5441.
Yeah.
They looked at 5614 and they decided to go to market with 5441. And I mean, those two drugs came out of the same research pipeline, and it's a little mind-boggling that some random anonymous guy on the internet, who's in smoke-filled back rooms with a Chinese chemical manufacturer, thinks he knows better than a company that clearly could have gone ahead with one drug and decided not to, when they have a profit motive, and a safety motive. Like, why are we taking this this redheaded stepchild drug? And it's pure conjecture from me. It's just an example. Like, he just thought he knew everything,
Yeah, and just circling back on the HairDAO point, the co-founders actually made him a quote-unquote working group member. There's Twitter posts about it. One of the co-founders, Andy Verbidden, not docs, he stated his name on his YouTube channel. He literally said in a post on Discord and also on Twitter that we're introducing and inducting Jumpman, something along the lines of him being a working group member, him running the clinical research and being on the financial board of HairDAO, right? So for me, I just seeing those posts, and then I'm not sure if you remember the other co-founder, coming to the Discord server, then essentially gaslighting everyone that, oh, Jumpman isn't a part of HairDAO. He never was. And then lo and behold, you see all these things that they already have on the internet, which is crazy to me. They're stating that he's co-designing a clinical trial with Dr. Claire Higgins. And then you have Dr. Ralph Paus, I think that's his name, the University of Miami. Yeah.
Immunosuppressants, yeah.
It seems crazy to me because he's really huge on that, right? But
he is, yeah.
And I've seen some articles where he stated some crazy things. I've seen him complain about there being too many mice studies. I've seen him just make all these weird complaints. And then, HairDAO has a screenshot. It's like when Ralph sees the TM blood data in their patient portal that they're having these balding men send their quote-unquote blood work to, that apparently HairDAO's not paying for, but Jumpman said that HairDAO would pay for. So to me, it's like this thing. Initially, I didn't want anything to do with this. They targeted me, and then they wanted me to promote this. I'm like, okay, crypto for hair loss already sounds bad to me. Let's see what you really are about. And now, they're running what is tantamount to a really an illegal human clinical trial. Like, that's just what it is, and it's asinine because HairDAO is incorporated in the United States. and it claims to follow like regulations, yet it's trying to circumvent it in certain cases. So, quote unquote, as Andrew Baxt said, it would Jumpman cut what would be millions to tens of thousands in this particular clinical trial. They have other posts on their Twitter where they're like, we can get you to market. We can help expedite your clinical trials faster by what? Breaking the law? Like, I don't want to be like a stickler about the law, but like, it kind of is important, especially when you're telling people to, I guess we'll touch on this now. The chemotherapy drugs, the experimental chemotherapy drugs, the whole thing about Harmine 19A. I mean, I guess what's more interesting, because I think we had a conversation about this before. Can you explain what this Jumpman Harmine 19A molecule is? Like, how did he discover it? Because I'm having a tough time finding what Harmine 19A is in the literature.
Yeah, that was a fun one. So I'll just backtrack a little bit. So as I said, when I first joined the group, I was looking for rapamycin and varinostat for just longevity and cognitive well-being. And then I remember reading in all of his kind of pontifications about the regimens he'd put together. He had said, if nothing else, because even I started to get interested, right? Like, yeah, I'm not losing my hair, but hey, who doesn't want like a fuller head of hair or, thicker hair, whatever, or preventative, right? Preventative measures. So even I started getting sucked in a little bit and reading what he wrote and what he was promising. And so he said, if nothing else, if you don't touch, all the other crazy stuff he's put together, the 30 chemicals that he thinks you need to take for, his regimen. If nothing else, take Harmine 19A. And it's like, what the hell is Harmine 19A? And apparently, and I have no idea what his qualifications are. Apparently, Imperial College London and others are very impressed with him. But Jumpman designed this chemical. It's derived from Harmine, which is it's very toxic. Which is fine. You can make modifications to, molecules in attached groups at certain positions. And
just to jump in though, Harmine is derivative of DMT.
They're related. Yeah.
So, and I mean, I guess it's questionable about whether he was allowed to do that. I don't know. I'm not going to be the legal expert here, but sorry, I'll let you continue.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That's a good question. I was going to say, I don't see why not. I mean, he's designing it in the freedom of his own home to, for theoretical purposes. But hey, maybe not. Maybe it's a scheduled thing. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Harmines, it's a beta carboline. They're often toxic. And it's an alkaloid. It's derived from some plant, I think.
Yeah.
Either way, he came up with this drug, and he thought it was going to be quote unquote the cure. And I don't even follow the space that much, the hair loss space. But even I have seen every year someone's promising the cure, right? So you just kind of roll your eyes at it, but he was very confident, and he said, "Oh, it was going to be a twist one inhibitor like nothing else." And for reference, topical melatonin is a twist one inhibitor. And for me, it's, but that's why I kind of got interested in it, because I thought, well, hey, if I have a weak one that works well, maybe a strong one would work. So. Fast forward, he promises the moon with this thing. Who the hell knows what it's going to do to you? Burn a hole in your head. I don't know.
Maybe.
But it never materialized. No one ever. Well, maybe some people did. I don't know.
I saw some screenshots that some people had it, but I'll let you continue.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I thought like a few people received it, but then the lab kept coming back to most people saying the yield on the synthesis process is not good or it's unstable. So I think all in all, kind of a dud. And Harmine, Harmine 19A itself, I remember reading his history of it because he had organized other group buys. I think at least 2 before this one with Harmine 19. It was the successor, in spirit to some other molecule they'd had synthesized called ADQ, and then a series of numbers and letters, but they called it ADQ. And that also is going to be the best thing since sliced bread, but they couldn't really dissolve it in any vehicle. So I don't think it really went anywhere, and maybe for the best, because who knows what the hell is going to do.
I think that part about him just, hey, if none of these things work, just buy this. Because I remember seeing in his protocol, his cure protocol, which, by the way, he has no scientific citations in any of his documents. But at the end of his cure protocol, he's like, and if you don't want to buy all 23 of these chemicals, you can just use these 3 chemotherapeutics, or you can use this, or you can use Harmine 19A on its own. And it kind of makes you question, what's the point of buying those other chemicals, right? Like, what's the motive for that if you're saying essentially all you just need is this at the very least, right? It doesn't make any sense. And the fact that people they I don't get it. They get rid of all their scrutiny. They lose their intelligence just to believe what he's saying. And then it's so crazy because he's saying, "Oh, this should be the cure." Have you tested it in a cell? At least, have you tested it in some tissue? Do you know if it's cytotoxic? Have you even tested it on mice? Yeah. You haven't even tested on mice, a cell, tissue, yet you're making the claim that it can cure hair loss? Give me a break.
Yeah, no, you're right. People's faculties, scrutinizing faculties go out the window. And the documentation may have been lengthy, but like you said, there are no citations. It's just some guy's theory. I think, as you're taking me down memory lane here about this whole group buy, one thing does come to mind as far as motivations, and I had another thing to say about HairDAO, but one thing that came to mind is, I think sometimes guys like this just like to play God and see what happens. Like, maybe he would have derived some kind of fulfillment from being able to like strike gold with some treatment or regimen or even monotherapy like Harmine 19 that he came up with. Maybe it was an ego thing, in part. Damn the consequences. Never mind that maybe like half the people who take even 25% of the stuff you're recommending, they drop dead. You never hear from them again. Like, he doesn't care about that. But the other thing with HairDAO, and I don't know much about it. I'm in general distrustful of not crypto as a technology, but the use of crypto in the hands of human nature, basically. With you said he was getting a bunch of HairDAO tokens, right?
Yeah, so and anyone can check this. I'll have the link, but in their they do this like quarterly report. It's like an investment report, but very unprofessional because it has memes in it. At the end of every report, you see, at the end of every report, you get to see something called token allocations, right? So whenever you do something for HairDAO, you get some sort of a prize, you get some sort of reward. It's kind of crazy because it's like they're employees. But anyway, Jumpman is always at the top. Jumpman has the most hair tokens because if you just do an F3 in all of their documents, if you find and keyword Jumpman, this guy is mentioned almost 200 times throughout their 5 documents. And by the way, these documents, these little magazines, they only have like 8 pages or so. So it's kind of insane.
if he's slick enough to out those allocations for himself, pretty hefty allocations it sounded like, then he probably was also slick enough to get a cut with Jenny. And between those two things, at least from the financial side, that was probably his motive. And the scary thing about that is there's no accountability. Like if he was hoping, I could envision a scenario where he just wanted to throw anything and everything at people who were desperate to take it, on the off chance that something might strike gold and HairDAO could have some successful data, and then he could pump his hair tokens or bald token, whatever the hell they are. Right? So to me that makes sense. And if it didn't work out, then he'd still be getting a cut from Jenny or Olivia or whoever they are on the side. And the scary thing about that to me is, like, say what you will about HairDAO and all those people, I don't know much about it, but you've mentioned names at least, right? These are people with careers. They're public facing. They can't run if something goes awry. If something goes awry and Jumpman's involved, he can just bail. Imagine like somebody died because they took they applied the ketoconazole that Jenny shipped, which, by the way, Jumpman quickly wrote in the chat after it had been received by a few people. Hey guys, throw out your keto. Olivia told me it's like actually terribly poisonous.
So how do they test it? Like that's my thing. I'm sorry for cutting it. It's just so ridiculous. Because I also saw another screenshot where someone was like talking to Olivia from Jenny's Chems. Is this dutasteride powder or is it the chemotherapeutic? That what, like, I don't even know what to say to that. That is horrific. Like,
yeah. I don't know. I don't know how somebody, either Jumpman or Olivia, came to learn that the keto they shipped was either like horribly impure or the wrong product, because he swept it under the rug very quickly and very casually, and no further scrutiny was invited into, like, yo, dude, what the fuck did you just say? Like, they shipped us rat poison? Like, hey, go back a second. There was something like that. So I don't know. I did find out from that little nugget, though, because people started asking some questions, even though he tried to just move on, that Jenny Chem is not even the manufacturer for some of the stuff they were shipping us. So, even more dog shit than some of the boiler rooms in China. You've got chemicals being shipped from India, and they were reselling to the group buy participants Indian tadalafil and Indian something else.
sorry, that'd be like Viagra, Cialis, and stuff like that, right?
Cialis, yeah. So they weren't even, and none of this. I mean, like, I say it, and like, why would it be? Of course, none of this was mentioned up front. That, by the way, Jenny is just a sourcer of some of these chemicals, or maybe all of them. Who knows? There's no disclosure. There's no nothing.
Wow. I'm wondering what Viagra has to do with hair, but
well, there's some decent human evidence.
No, I'm just being a bit facetious here, but it's because, like, a lot of Jumpman's claims are just literally unsubstantiated, right? It's one thing to read a theory.
Yeah.
You can read a theory, you can read something that happens in mice. And what my issue with Jumpman is that I really think he just looked up a pathway that happens in a particular, disease process, like male pattern baldness. And then he said, I wonder what drugs modulate this pathway. And then said, okay, we'll just use it in that. But I guess he fails to understand a lot of these, like, cells have, they're from different, like, tissues. They have different responsibilities. Right. They have different, cellular environments. Some of them are cancerous cells. as
Yes.
being the whole chemotherapy, those 3 drugs, 2 of which aren't even approved yet. They have narrow therapeutic indexes, which means there's only a marginal window between its therapeutic use and it potentially fucking killing you. And then those chemotherapeutic drugs themselves have cancer as a side effect, and you're telling people, "Oh, if nothing works, just use all 3 of them at the same time. That should bring back your hair." Like it's like I don't know. Do I want him to be a troll? Do I want this to be a joke? Do I want him to be sincere and actually mean this? I think what I find to be really disturbing is that there are some dudes on Reddit saying, "Oh yeah, he's working with Dr. Claire Higgins. They're making a clinical trial. They're testing on 201 people, right?" And not only that, but HairDAO says, "Oh, Jumpman co-designed a study with Dr. Claire Higgins." I had some of my friends and we emailed Claire Higgins just saying, "Hey, we just thought you should be made aware that this Jumpman guy is doing this, and they're attaching this stuff to your name. It could have some deep implications." Just the aggressiveness in her response, what are you talking about? What are you trying to pull here? Jumpman left the HairDAO a while ago, and it's like, well, this tweet, is saying that you're working with him, but the very fact she didn't deny that, to me, I don't even know what to say to that, right? I can give some leeway. I can say maybe she doesn't know who Jumpman is, right? Or maybe she knows Jumpman by a different name, right? The Andys, Andrew Rabidin and Andrew Baxt, they know who Jumpman is. They talk to Jumpman very intimately. But if they don't, that's also crazy because, again, Jumpman can walk away from this. They're known. They've stated their name. They're the co-founders. They've incorporated their DAO, their HairDAO company. Oh, it's not a company, right? It's a decentralized autonomous organization, but it's incorporated in the U.S. and it has a hierarchical structure as any traditional organizational company. But anyway, they've incorporated that company, and they have to follow U.S. law, and they're trying to pass themselves off as some sort of biotech company. And it's insane to me because you have a university researcher, Dr. Ralph Poss of the University of Miami, and his lab, I think it's called Catanian or whatever. They go to conferences together. He's attaching their name. They just put out a co-patent for a topical thyroid, which is crazy to me that this Ralph Poss, like, I'm amazed. In his own study, he says it's, if I'm not mistaken, there's a danger to using a topical thyroid long term, yet he wants to put this on the market. And then complaining about my studies, and then you find out that, he's like, "Oh, why do we always do my studies? Is the NIH, why do they always fund my studies?" And then you want to test on humans, like Jumpman's doing. It's just, to me, there's, you don't know for sure because you don't have the full evidence in front of you to say, yes, they are working together and he has seen this and has approved this. But when you have the co-founders calling these people patients in their demos in some tech conference in New York City, it really makes you ask the question, who is responsible for what? And did this Dr. Ralph Poss, does he have a deeper connection to it? And I'm kind of disturbed, to be honest.
Yeah. It's disturbing. A lot of good questions, and you're making me even think more about it as you're going through it again. I don't know. I don't know what these different academics and whatnot were thinking by getting into bed with this guy. And it's clear by that Claire woman. I'm sorry, whatever her name is. It's clear by her answer, like you said. She didn't say no, but she was also pretty flustered. So she's like between a rock and a hard place, right? She can't lie because it's all over the place that like they collaborated. And it is based on all the places his name pops up. It's like Donald Trump saying like, "Oh yeah, like that guy, I've only met him for coffee once," and it was like, dude, it was your chief of staff, right? Not to get political, but
Yeah.
Either way, like whatever side you're on, like it's ridiculous. So Yeah, and with the Miami guy, House, it's interesting you mentioned him, and this is what I was thinking about more when I said that, because in the drugs for sale, there was tacrolimus, which is it's
Yep.
similar to rapamycin, right? It's a rapalog, um, and like everolimus and whatnot. But I remember Dr. Paus's he was quite a big proponent of tacrolimus in a lot of his studies and tried it a lot. And so I guess what I'm getting at is I have absolutely, I'm just purely making inferences. I have no proof of anything. But like when you look at the list of things Jumpman had for sale, um, like you said, like what the hell is Cialis doing in there, right? Like what's tacrolimus doing in there? Who gave him that idea? I don't know. I'm completely spitballing, but yeah, it doesn't make sense if they say they don't know him and whatnot. Like if that's all true, then why did he fly the coop too? Like all of a sudden, before his group buy had fully come to fruition, guy just disappears, and nobody ever sees him again. Like what was with the disappearing act? Why did you have to you know flee the country, so to speak?
I think again, like from what I remember, I just asked him some pretty simple questions. Like, okay, how are you testing it? Where are you getting it from? Are you making a cut? Something along the lines of that. To me, I just thought they were just very basic, honest questions. And the way I presented it was like, okay, I don't know anything about the screenshots, but when I had them, and I wanted to get confirmation. Okay, did HairDAO approve for the blood work? Because you're pushing this one particular molecule that I've seen them talk about various times on their server, TM5614, and Jumpman was there advocating for it. So, like, what was that all about, right?
Yeah.
And I just don't know what to say. It's like he ran away for a reason, or he's not being, fully involved, front facing for a reason. And it's whether he was told to, get off of the internet by the Andes, the co-founders, or whether he did that on his own. I just think, honestly, to everyone else who's involved in the group buy, you just running away and deleting it, the Telegram, to my knowledge, that's what he did. He deleted the Telegram.
Yeah. Yeah.
That just made you look very guilty. Like you didn't have to delete anything,
Yeah.
but you deleted it because, I mean, you don't know who's sending the screenshots to me. You don't know who's taking pictures of what. So the best
Right.
thing to do would be to remove the evidence from the surface. But it's they're still pursuing this. Like if you look at their Discord server, they're still pursuing these same quote unquote gene targets, using the same drugs. Jumpman is talking about the same chemotherapeutics, and it's just like you mean to tell me he's still not involved somehow? Come on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The new server, the new group or the replacement group is run by this guy, Iron Brad, who, uh, I'm just going to call it as I see it. I mean, he's clearly still receiving instructions or guidance from Jumpman. Um, it's pretty obvious, at least to me. And yeah, I've poked around in there. It's I mean, if they are still pursuing stuff, and I'm looking through it now, I mean, yeah, they're still on that train. Um, it's definitely lost some steam though with Jumpman gone. There's just an entire series of discussions with about pictures of nudes of Sydney Sweeney and whether her career is more like an acting career or just OnlyFans.
Are you serious?
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. It's kind of a joke to me at this point. But yeah, to this day, nothing has been tested. There's still just, banging coconuts around saying, "Oh, when will we ever get this tested?" And someone should test. Someone should test.
So
But
and they're using it on themselves, or is it just like it's just sitting there, collecting dust in a collection of some kind of experimental chemicals?
yeah,
Like,
I think a little of both. I've seen people say. I'll say this overall. I haven't seen anyone report success. I've just seen a lot of, these group buys. Oh God, I've seen so many of these. They all kind of go the same way. Um, the the one that the thing that distinguished this one was, of course, like the cult of personality around Jumpman and the HairDAO involvement. But aside from that, like, and the sheer breadth and volume of materials being offered, and the regimen was very comprehensive. But aside from that, these guys don't know what the hell they're doing. They're just taking random stuff and pouring it on their head because, a mouse, you can piss on a mouse, right? And it'll grow hair.
yeah.
So I I don't know. I've seen some people saying like there's some chemical that I think was derived from related to blueberries or something, and so it's dyeing people's scalp red. They're trying to get it out, staining their
N-
scalp.
wait. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say about that, man. It's just
And they're trying to get rid of it. Yeah.
so the whole thing is compounding is very important. How you deliver the drug is very important.
Sure.
And there's just so many variables to this, right? A lot of these dudes have to do that themselves, right?
Right.
So was this to me? Was this even supposed to even like be successful? Was this a way to somehow raise money for another operation? I just don't see any validity here. Like any honest person, I don't think Jumpman's dumb. Is what I'm trying to say. I don't think the founders of HairDAO are dumb. Like,
No.
or maybe they are. Some people are just completely incompetent. But for me, I just can't think someone is that dumb. There has to be another motive. But I guess I tend to be a conspiracy theorist when it comes to these things. I don't know. But just the space is making me go crazy because I just can't imagine. I can't imagine putting on like a chemotherapy, unapproved, untested drug anywhere near my house. But even on my body, get out of here, man. That's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah. I think, and I know what you're saying about, are they smart? Are they dumb? I think the way I reconcile that is, well, I think they can be smart or at least clever at the local level. On the universal level, it's just like gobsmackingly stupid. Like, what are you doing? You really think you're gonna get away with this? Like, and you're not gonna raise at least some like regulatory red flags or run afoul of the law somehow? Like, it's it's gonna come back to bite you somehow. You can't do this. Um, but zoomed in, you say, oh, okay, well, this is a pretty slick operation. So I don't know. A lot of questions. I agree with you. It's I saw stuff in the chemical catalog that I like I've been saying, I don't follow the hair loss scene that much. Even I'm familiar with some of the chemicals, clascoterone and other stuff that's um, pyrolutamide or whatever it's called, stuff that comes and goes and is the next big cure and everything. Even and I'm sure you're much more um, versed in all that than I am. Probably even for you, there's stuff in that list of chemicals like you've never even heard of.
Yeah,
He's
there's
just
some
handing it
weird
out
shit
like
in there.
candy.
A lot of like weird, obscure chemicals. That, to be honest, at least from what I see in terms of their mechanism of action, it doesn't seem to have anything to do with hair loss at all. Um,
Yeah.
there was this one that dealt with demethylation of cells, and I'm just sitting there thinking, what is he using this for? What is the justification
Mm.
for this? It's hard to believe that that would even. I don't know. I can think about this all I want, I can try to steel man, his position and make him, stronger than he is in his research. But in reality, it's, just what it is. Jumpman seems to be a guy that got full of himself. It could very well be the case that he tricked even the co-founders into having some sort of weird confidence. The whole Harmine 19A that he developed himself, one thing I saw on their Discord server was that there's a company called Stemcell Therapeutics. And the co-founders were like, well, I'd rather invest in Jumpman than Stemcell Therapeutics. Somebody asked, well, Stemcell Therapeutics is an actual company. At least you can ask for some sort of, deal or something. The co-founder said something along the lines of, well, I am just more comfortable investing in Jumpman because I believe in Jumpman. This blind faith, like, did he trick you guys? Is he like the mastermind here? Is he the, the scam artist? I think the question, is he even using these drugs on himself? Because he stated he is. You don't even know this guy. He hasn't even posted a picture of his head. Yet you believe that he's, listen, the tacrolimus thing, I had to use tacrolimus before for just inflammatory issues on my scalp and some eczema that I had. I'll tell you this. This thing is phototoxic. You can't go outside in the sun with this on your scalp, just walking around. You do that, you fuck up, you get folliculitis, you get sunburn. It can increase your chances of melanoma. And then you're telling these guys, oh, and use a topical, use a chemotherapy drug that is supposed to treat skin cancer, but hasn't really been tested yet. And it seems that they have, the one that has been tested, it has cancer causing effects on its own. I'm just baffled. Like, issues don't have to present themselves now, but the amount of things that people may have been exposed to, and just the blind trust you need to have, right? They can test something that they made perfectly once and say, yeah, we tested it right. But your particular batch that you got, you don't know what you got. You don't know what you got. So I'm just so, like, I guess the word is baffled. I don't know what to say, just baffled.
Yeah, it is mind-boggling. Everything, the logic, the arrogance. Yeah, I mean, he put together these elaborate, almost like Rube Goldberg type regimens where, well, yeah, like this will kill your hair follicles if you don't take this. So take, this other thing, and then that'll make your hair go gray if you don't take this other thing. And then, your spleen will fail if you don't take this, this 30th thing. And yeah, like you said, even if you got it tested, even if you got every vial from every batch tested, no one's ever taken this. Like, you don't know this guy. He hasn't posted his head, like you said, and some of the other things just totally call into question, like his authority on just the basics, like the thing I said about the melatonin. They were selling, I'm sure the RU58841 chemical.
Yep.
He was really pushing that. And I've always just found that laughable because it's been around forever. It's been sold off as IP from company to company who keeps thinking they're going to make millions off it, and they realize it's whatever, is not safe or it's worthless. I mean, I tried it once, and no joke. I mean, there were clearly androgen receptor blocking effects in the heart. Like, I got weird heartbeat.
Yeah.
I didn't sleep right for 6 months.
Like, I don't.
Serious stuff, right?
It's crazy.
He's like, oh yeah, it's safe. Just add it in.
You see, I made a video about RU58841, and because I remember I had an argument with one of Jumpman's henchmen. His name is Zero, and this guy seems to hate me a lot because I wasn't supporting HairDAO in the beginning. And it went so far as to him contacting my family members, trying to call my place of work, just becoming very intrusive, saying that I'm his cyber stalker, yet he knows my address, my name, Like, I'm pretty sure my favorite color at this point. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is he was like, oh, well, KWRX, you support RU584's use. I've made videos talking about people having heart damage from RU584, from having lung damage. His argument to me was like, oh, they could be lying. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, wait. So now you're saying those people are invalidated because of a nocebo effect. I haven't heard of a nocebo effect causing lung disease before in my life. You look at the same class of drugs, the same pipeline RU58841 came out of from Rousseau Duclaf, the original French pharmaceutical manufacturers of it. You have nilutamide, cyanonilutamide, you have bicalutamide, and all these drugs, they're known to have reactive oxygen species that destroy the liver and the lungs. So for me, it's conceivable that even RU could do that on its own, or maybe what you're getting from whatever lab isn't actually RU. Maybe you're getting bicalutamide, maybe you're getting a higher concentration of something. Again, it comes down to testing, and I wanted to do a thing because I know where people are going to use whatever they're going to use. At the very least, get some sort of testing system. I just to jump on the testing thing real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Why Genoshic? Why just these set of labs and whatever? Because I've seen things about Genoshic from like thinksteroids.com, other forums where people are saying he's being kind of shady about testing. I've seen people complain about other I don't know, maybe third party like NMR companies, or they don't necessarily test it themselves, but they send it to. It's like a really convoluted type of nonsense in this space sometimes when it comes to something so simple as testing. But to go back to the point of Zero, yeah, like the RU58841 thing, like you can't just say someone is having a nocebo when we don't even know anything about the safety of this particular drug, and it was suspiciously dropped, right? You can't just say that. And at the same time, when I make the argument that hey, it may not be safe, you're pissed off at me for saying I'm not being scientific when it comes to that. And it's like, really? Well, okay. Base it off the class of the drug and see what other side effects are there if you don't even have the data for the drug that people are widely using. I don't know. Just a rant. I just this whole thing is infuriating.
Yeah, it is, and yeah, with the RU thing as an example, or a microcosm, like these people, I get it. I'm sure losing hair, and a lot of hair, sucks. My brother had it quite early. He was like 16, which is brutal. I get it. But they just come on, use your brain a little bit. Like, do you not know how the world works? Something like RU, if it works so well and it was safe, why would 50 companies right now all over the world be pursuing other hair loss drugs? Like, just think a little bit. Just use a little bit of logic. But they're just blinded. I don't know. I don't get it. Yeah, I don't get it.
I'll say this. When it comes to the amount of combinations that can exist from Jumpman's stack, I think we had some guy on my server named, I'm not going to say his name, maybe he doesn't want to be known. But he did he used the binomial coefficient, and he calculated that, the number of pairs and stacks you can get out of Jumpman's 23 chemicals was somewhere, I think it was 23 or 26, somewhere between 8 million to 16 million possible combinations of where things could possibly go right if they are to work, or things could possibly go terribly wrong. But even if, let's say, somehow something works from that crazy, stack, right? You would have to find out which one of those chemicals and how they interact with one another led to that sort of
good luck
benefit.
Isolating.
Yeah, it's like there's no way you can do that properly in any sort of controlled environment. I don't know. And they had this whole thing that they wanted to use Jumpman AI with HairDAO, where essentially Jumpman, he's just using ChatGPT to be honest. He feeds it his research papers.
What?
And yeah, if you go to their server, that it's there. It's called like Jumpman's AI research tool.
Oh boy.
So yeah, that is just crazy to me, right? It's just,
Well,
I don't know.
yeah, I don't get to. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're good.
Just quickly, I don't get to like, if all this was serious, like this is a serious concerted effort to like sustainably tackle this problem, like who's going to put together the next group buy? Like this whole thing just fell apart, and who's going to organize buying 30 chemicals again? It's just silly.
No, that's definitely true. And it's, to me, it's
Every year, all you people are going to get together again and like buy everything at the same time. I mean, it's ridiculous.
there's no shot that that's gonna happen. And
Yeah.
I just I don't like I have like a million thoughts going through my head trying to just understand them. Like it's just why go through this whole entire process of setting up a group buy, being very shady about it, running away from it after you've, and honestly, it's rude to the people. Again, I don't want to reiterate, but it really is rude to the people who've given you their trust. So you just jump off the face of the earth, and then it's like, oh, I'm stressed out because KW is bullying me. Really? You've been nasty. You've said crazier things to people who bought your frickin' chemicals. I ask you a simple question, you shit your pants and you run away. It's like, it's ridiculous. And just to like go back to the point about the founders, man, there's one thing that they could have done right, and that would be because they talk about, we want to replace the National Institute of Health. Really? The National Institutes of Health, a government organization. You go tell them that and see, people have egos. I'm sure people in governments also have, people that have position of powers in government have egos too. That we're all human. You tell them that bullshit and see how much they like that. But the National Institutes of Health, they give out grants with no expectation of profit. You do that with the expectation of profit. And then they talk about, DAOs are very efficient. Here's the thing you could do. You could have just became a charity.
Right.
You could raise the money. You wouldn't be taxed. The whole organization wouldn't be taxed. Now, how they're raising the money right now in HairDAO, I don't know. They sent Claire Hagens a bunch of money to her lab. I don't know how they're raising the money, right? This DAO has been around for a year. It's about to be a year. It's been around for a year if you check Etherscan. And you've raised how much money? Who's giving you all this money? You raised like $8 million here, $15 million here, like some crazy amount of money. Your market cap is like, I think last time I checked, like $40 million.
What's the token?
It's called HAIR, HAIR, just HAIR. It's on Uniswap. You can find it on Uniswap. If you look at it, it just looks really, really weird. Like, there's barely any sort of volume on it. Okay, it's a token, whatever. They're just holding it. But I don't know. It's just very suspicious. And then also, I didn't even mention this yet. Both of the founders have their own cryptocurrency venture capital. Andrew Baxt has and those venture capitals, by the way, are invested, quote unquote, they're supporting HairDAO. If you go on their LinkedIn's, they don't even have HairDAO listed as, the place they're working at. Those, at least in the case of Andrew Baxt, they make some crazy thing like, we've outperformed the market 2,000%. We beat Bitcoin, the S&P 500. We consistently outperformed them every quarter. Really? Okay, I had this report from the National Bureau of Labor Statistics or some department from the U.S. Government, and it says like, that is not even that's very rare for anyone to like outperform by, I think like by 10% or something consistently. And I'm like, wow, so you have this unique trading algorithm. You make all this money apparently. Okay, what the fuck are you doing? Like, become the next Hudson River Trading, firm. Become the next Jane Street. Right? What are you doing just shitting your pants now making a hair loss DAO or some bullshit like that? And then Andrew Verbinen, his Foster Cove Capital. You go to his website. This thing is just pathetic. It just shows it's just untitled. It literally says untitled when you visit the website. It's just the default. You click his article and he's talking about that DAOs could be really great. The government could regulate it, and then they'd make a lot of money from it. And we're kind of like SpaceX. SpaceX disrupted things, and it's helping NASA now. And then he talks about some government military contractor or some bullshit, and how they're pretty much following in the same footsteps. They can replace the NIH. Dude, again, final statement, I guess, for me. Why don't you just become a charity? You're more transparent as a charity. In the United States, when you file Form 990 to become a charity, anybody can use the IRS's tool to see your to check non-taxable organizations to track how you're using the money. That is the most transparent thing. No common person is going to, I'm gonna get a MetaMask wallet. I'm gonna buy some ETH. I'm gonna go on Uniswap. I'm gonna get some hair token. I'm gonna join the Discord server. I'm gonna do shit like. And is it a security, right? The way they're organizing things, if you do this, you do that, you get hair. You're showing common enterprise. Everyone's working together to make this DAO explode. They're contacting researchers. If you do that and show proof, you get hair tokens. I just don't see. I'm sorry. I don't see how. Yeah. Sorry. What happened?
Oh no. I was looking at the HairDAO website. Have you seen the screenshot on their website of Jumpman's name?
Is that a new thing? I mean, I like to think I'm pretty well versed on this, but really, let me see.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of idly, scanning it as I was listening to you, and yeah, I'll send it to you right now. This is interesting. I just my eye just happened to catch this on one of their pages.
No shot. I mean, I've been so locked in, just like writing articles on. Wow, dude, what the hell? You know what? You have a good eye, because
Yeah.
I've seen this image, but I never actually looked close. Okay, so the fact that they have a Jumpman Easter egg on their website, just fuck off. Don't tell me Jumpman's not involved. Andrew Baxt, Andrew Verbinen. You have an Easter egg of this guy on your website. Beep hair? What is this? What?
I'm gonna archive it just for posterity here.
Yeah. I mean, hey, look, I love the little scavenger hunt they set up, right? But all this could their Discord server is just a cesspool, right? They just have people running amok, harassing researchers too, hey, go tell this researcher to join HairDAO. I do not want to join HairDAO. Please leave me alone. It's just crazy to me. And again, Claire Higgins, especially, and I respect some of her work, right? The whole thing that she wrote about, different hair follicles having, different cell lineages, and you can possibly use that to predict androgenetic alopecia patterns. That's pretty cool. But you're going to sully your reputation by not even doing your due diligence about what the hell HairDAO is. At the very least, I try to give her an out to see if they misrepresented her contribution, or a Jumpman's affiliation rather, with her.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that she jumps to skepticism and immediately becomes confrontational, that doesn't look well to me. But I mean, I don't want to extend this interview any longer than it has to be. If you have any closing thoughts, any closing remarks, or maybe Jumpman's listening to this right now, maybe, I don't know. But you're welcome to take the floor.
Yeah, I think we've covered it all. I think there's so many questions, but just going off of history repeating itself with these kinds of operations, and just logic, right? What's kind of take the Occam's razor to the situation? What's
exactly
the most logical answer to all this? I mean, I think they got caught doing something. They maybe got a little full of themselves. and they tried to back out of it, but they can't really say it never happened because evidence is everywhere. So they're probably just hoping people leave them alone about it.
Well, I'll say I'm a pretty petty person, so I don't think my ego at the very least can let this go. They wanted promotion, right? That was the initial harassment, and I guess I'll give them that. Yeah, that's the least I can do.
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for agreeing to do this, and I'll
Absolutely.
definitely update you on things.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
All right, take care.